Now, that court has made the ruling, but will government comply? Essential services like hospitals, clinics, schools and police stations must now be exempt from power outages in that High Court judgment in Pretoria. The Minister of Public Enterprises, Pravin Gordhan, has 60 days to comply. To unpack this further and to get some reaction, we're joined by SAFTU General Secretary Zwelinzima Vavi, who joins us virtually from here in Johannesburg. Thank you so much for your time this morning. This is high time a decision like this has been handed down. We have had week upon week of stories of hospitals struggling to just deliver the most basic services to ordinary South Africans and have not been able to do so because of these ongoing power cuts. And the list of the impact that it's had on essential services just goes on. I'm sure you feel like this is a welcome decision, but could have been done a long time ago.
All we can say, Uri, there is nothing more sweeter than the victory of this kind. The intervention that has been made by the 17 organizations who approached the High Court in Gauteng and who yesterday scored a historic victory in forcing government to, in the next 60 days, exempt all of the most essential basic services that should be provided to the public, cannot be more sweeter and cannot be more enjoyable for the people of South Africa. We are over the moon. We are absolutely very happy that the High Court agreed with us that at the minimum, the government must save lives in the public hospitals, in the clinics and other related institutions. Government must guarantee the future of our children by ensuring that no child is disadvantaged, at least when they are at school, that they can use the internet, they can use the electricity to study, and they can use their libraries and be able to study with electricity, and therefore have better chances of being something in their lives. And thirdly, at the time when our crime statistics are telling us that we are losing 82 lives violently every day, that we are facing a phenomenon, a catastrophe, that 135 of our women get raped every single day, and that 549 houses get broken into every single day, and that 6 families get held in hostage by armed gangs of criminals. There can be nothing more sweeter than getting a court to make a ruling that at least those basic 3 services must be exempted from the rolling load shedding that have been going on for the past 15 years.
Now, Zwelinzima, how the story is being covered has pointed repeatedly to comments made by former Eskom CEO Andre de Ruyter a while ago, where he did broach the subject of isolating essential services. And at the time, he said that it would be virtually impossible from a technical point of view to isolate those facilities, and he says the sheer number of facilities and locations that would have to be isolated would put too much pressure on an already overstrained system. But I do also see that in those judgment notes, they said that where it's impossible to isolate certain facilities and buildings, that Minister Gordhan must ensure that generators and other alternative energy supplies are secured to ensure uninterrupted power. What do you say to those comments about how it would actually be impossible or very, very difficult to isolate these essential services?
It's down to political will. Wherever there is a will, there is a way. There has been no will, and that's why there has been no way to address at least provision of electricity in the most basic services. How could anybody tell us that it is not possible to isolate a public hospital and a clinic, and so that doctors now have to use their cell phone to operate? And how could anybody tell us that we shouldn't have electricity in the ICU at the hospital? why would no government or this government do everything that it can to ensure that there is oxygen that is in each and every ward where kids as young as 0 days up to the oldest, most vulnerable member of the society is in hospital without oxygen. This is insane. Government have 60 days, we insist. It mustn't waste its time by appealing. We agree with General Olomisa. It must comply. It must tell South Africans now that it will do everything to comply with the judgment, and that in the next 59 days now, instead of arguing, they must count the clock. We now 59 days to the 60 days that the court have determined to ensure that every school have electricity, every police station have electricity. Secondly, government must take advantage of the fact that it has announced a program to roll out solar panels. Why can't it start in the police stations, schools, and why can't it ensure that every hospital has not only solar but generators to keep electricity 24 hours, 7 days, 365 days in a year, so that we can guarantee at least the lives of those that are now so sick that they have to be taken care of in our hospitals.
Now, part of the judgment made a point of saying that this proves repeated breaches by the state of its constitutional and statutory duties, and that those breaches infringe on citizens' rights to healthcare, security and education. Do you think that this finding, this court's finding, could set a precedent for other court action like this to compel government to finally provide these very basic services that so many South Africans are still going without? I think immediately of the stories that we continue to tell here at eNCA of schools in rural areas, or children in rural areas who still have to cross rivers just to get to school, schools that don't have electricity even to begin with. Could this be setting a precedent to try and compel government to finally deliver those services?
We think so. Look, we are more interested in the second leg of this judgment. We've made an argument, and through our advocate, and we want to congratulate him, Advocate Mugaitobi. We made an argument that says electricity is a basic human right, and that this government has a constitutional obligation to ensure that it guarantees that basic right to every South African to have electricity. And we doubt if the judges will not agree with that argument. It cannot be anything else that the Constitution obliges the government to provide these essential services to South Africans as a whole. Now, if the judgment makes that ruling, that there are some basic rights that accrue from the Constitution, then the next thing will be why 29 years down the line do we still have a situation where kids are drowning in their own feces, in the hospitals, in the latrine toilets? Why people in Bochabelo, in the Free State, and so many other places are still being humiliated through the bucket system when they have been told ages ago that these will be eliminated? We're going to go back and ask why our correctional services centers have become the centers where we only sharpen the skills of criminality when they should be correctional services because of overloading and because of the fact that they are way above their capacity, and that it's not possible to even conduct any kind of correctional services in the centers that are so overcrowded. Why are we still allowing the police services to only detect, just listen to this, the police are only able to detect 14.5% of the people who have been murdered, and they're only able to take those cases to court, and their record, of course, in the court is dismal. Why has government not prioritized employment of more police officials why government have not ensured that we train detectors and that we have judges that are not spending 12 months to issue a single judgment, as we now know. All of these things will flow from this judgment, and we're going to pick them one by one to force this government to make this constitution a living document that can guarantee us, not just in paper, but in our living experience, all of the rights that accrue in Section 27 of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights as a whole.
Okay, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for that. That's South African Federation of Trade Unions General Secretary Zwelinzima Vavi joining us virtually from here in Johannesburg.